When we think of horror in the Philippines, we often picture the aswang or the white lady of Balete Drive. But the most chilling stories aren't about monsters from folklore. They're about real people and real events. The evil humans are capable of can be far more terrifying than any ghost story. Today, we're counting down 3 of the most real and horrifying news stories from the Philippines. These are stories of betrayal, brutality, and loss that have haunted the nation. Prepare yourselves, because sometimes the truth is more frightening than fiction. Subscribe for more true horror stories. Our first story takes us to the heart of the Philippines, to Maleng, North Cotabato, a place where life often unfolds with the quiet rhythm of a close-knit community. It's a place where neighbors know each other, where trust is a currency freely exchanged, and where families build their lives on foundations of kindness and mutual support. But beneath this veneer of tranquility, darkness can sometimes take root, shattering the peace and leaving scars that time struggles to heal. The year is 2021. The world is still grappling with the pandemic, but in Malang life goes on, marked by the turning of calendar pages and the daily headlines that speak of a world both near and far. The Magwad family, pillars of their community, were known for their warmth, generosity, and unwavering commitment to helping others. They were the kind of people who opened their doors and their hearts without hesitation, always ready to lend a hand to those in need. Their home was a haven, a place of laughter, love, and unwavering support. In the spirit of their giving nature, the Magwads welcomed a working student named Janice into their home, offering her a place to stay and an opportunity to pursue her education. They saw in her a bright future and a deserving individual, unaware of the darkness that resided within. On December 10th, a day that began like any other, the Magwad family's world would be irrevocably shattered. As the parents returned home that evening, they were met not with the familiar warmth of their family, but with a scene of unimaginable horror, a nightmare that would forever haunt their waking hours. Their beloved children, Crizzle and Crizzle, lay lifeless, victims of a brutal and senseless act of violence. The home that was once a sanctuary was now a crime scene, stained with blood and echoing with the silence of lost lives. Janice, the working student they had so generously taken in, was the only survivor, seemingly untouched by the carnage that had unfolded. She claimed that 3 men had broken into the house, perpetrating the heinous attack on the unsuspecting siblings. Her story painted a picture of a terrifying home invasion, a random act of violence that had robbed the Magwad family of their precious children. The community was instantly gripped by fear and grief, struggling to comprehend the senseless loss of such young lives. Law enforcement agencies mobilized swiftly, launching a massive investigation to bring the perpetrators to justice and restore a sense of security to the shattered community. But as the investigation progressed and crucial details began to surface, a disturbing truth began to emerge. Janice's account of the events that transpired on that fateful day began to unravel, revealing inconsistencies and raising serious doubts about her involvement. Investigators found no evidence of forced entry, casting a shadow of suspicion on the supposed break-in. Furthermore, the timeline of events she provided simply didn't align with the physical evidence and witness testimonies, further fueling the suspicion that she was concealing something. Confronted with the mounting evidence against her, Janice finally broke down and confessed to a horrifying truth. She and her boyfriend were responsible for the brutal murders of Crizzle and Crizzle. Their motive, she revealed, was a twisted cocktail of jealousy and resentment towards the Magwad siblings. The revelation sent shockwaves through the community, a devastating blow that shattered the very foundations of trust and compassion. The Magwad family's act of kindness, their willingness to open their home to someone in need, had been repaid with the ultimate betrayal. The very person they sought to help had orchestrated their tragedy. The case quickly became a national sensation, dominating headlines and sparking widespread outrage across the Philippines. The story ignited intense debates about the complexities of trust, the vulnerabilities within families, and the hidden dangers that can lurk beneath the surface of seemingly ordinary lives. The fact that Janice and her accomplice were minors further complicated the situation, preventing them from being tried as adults and subjected to the full extent of the law. This legal constraint fueled public outrage, with many demanding harsher penalties for juvenile offenders who commit heinous crimes. The Magwad case remains a painful and enduring reminder of the fragility of life and the devastating consequences of betrayal. It serves as a stark warning that sometimes, The greatest threats come not from strangers lurking in the shadows, but from those closest to us, those we trust implicitly. The horror that befell the Magwad family wasn't the act of a stranger knocking at their door. It was the insidious presence of someone who had already been welcomed inside, someone who had gained their trust and exploited their kindness. The Magwad parents suffered an unimaginable loss, not just the loss of their beloved children, but also the loss of their sense of safety, their faith in humanity, and their ability to trust those around them. Their simple act of kindness, their willingness to extend a helping hand, was met with an act of unimaginable betrayal, a cruel and senseless act that defied comprehension. The story forced the entire country to confront uncomfortable truths about the complexities of family dynamics, the challenges of forgiveness, and the potential for darkness to reside even within the most seemingly innocent individuals. It remains a scar that continues to ache in the Filipino consciousness, a constant reminder of the fragility of trust and the devastating consequences of betrayal. The Magwad tragedy serves as a chilling warning that evil can often wear a familiar and deceptive face, masking its true intentions behind a facade of innocence and vulnerability. Sometimes the monsters we fear the most are not the ones lurking outside our doors, but the ones we unknowingly welcome into our lives, into our homes, and into our hearts. The case, though legally closed, remains unresolved in the hearts and minds of many, a lingering question mark in the pursuit of true justice. For some, the scales of justice still feel unbalanced, leaving a void that can never truly be filled. In 1993, the nation was shaken to its core by a crime so heinous, so unthinkable, it left an indelible scar on the Philippine psyche. A crime that exposed the darkest side of power, revealing the chilling extent to which corruption could fester within the halls of public office. The victims, Mary Eileen Sarmenta and Alan Gomez, both promising students at the University of the Philippines Los Baños UPLB. Their lives were tragically cut short when they were abducted by none other than Calawan Mayor Antonio Sanchez and his ruthless men. Sanchez, a man who had sworn an oath to protect his constituents, a man entrusted with their safety and well-being, orchestrated their kidnapping and brutal assault with chilling precision and a disturbing lack of remorse. Mary Eileen was callously declared a gift to the mayor, a horrifying testament to the abuse of power, then handed over to his henchmen, sealing her fate in a nightmare of violence. Alan, an innocent bystander, was subjected to unspeakable brutality, beaten and tortured for simply being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Both were ultimately murdered in cold blood, their lives extinguished to silence them forever, or so their killers thought. Their lifeless bodies were dumped in a remote location, discarded like trash by those who believed themselves untouchable, shielded by their power and influence. The case immediately dominated headlines across the nation, revealing the shocking depths of corruption and the unimaginable cruelty that could exist within the highest levels of public office. In a stunning turn of events, witnesses from Sanchez's own inner circle bravely broke their silence, risking their own lives to come forward. They exposed the mayor's long and brutal reign of terror, painting a vivid picture of his corruption and abuse of power. The trial that followed became a national spectacle, captivating the entire country, testing the very foundations of the Philippine justice system against the immense power and influence of a corrupt political figure. In 1995, after a long and arduous legal battle, Sanchez and his men were finally found guilty of their heinous crimes. They were sentenced to life imprisonment, a punishment that seemed fitting for the magnitude of their offenses. The verdict was hailed as a rare and hard-fought victory for justice in a country often plagued by corruption and impunity. But even with the guilty verdict, the deep scars of the Sarmenta Gomez case remained, a constant reminder of the fragility of justice. Then, in 2019, decades after the initial crime, news began to circulate about Sanchez's possible early release from prison, sparking outrage and disbelief across the nation. The mere suggestion of his freedom reignited the public's long-simmering anger and outrage, threatening to reopen old wounds. The nation's collective memory, still vivid and raw, of the Sarmenta Gomez case remains a potent symbol. A symbol of innocence brutally lost, dreams tragically shattered, and the ever-present dangers of unchecked power and systemic corruption. The ghosts of Mary Eileen and Alan continue to haunt the country's conscience, a constant reminder of the price of impunity. Their story serves as a chilling warning that evil can often hide behind a mask of authority, cloaked in the trappings of power. The Sarmenta Gomez case forced the Philippines, as a nation, to confront the uncomfortable reality of deep-seated corruption and the pervasive culture of impunity that allowed such a crime to occur. It's a stark reminder that justice is not a passive concept. It must be actively fought for, relentlessly pursued, even when the odds seem insurmountable, even when facing seemingly insurmountable obstacles. The Sarmenta Gomez tragedy stands as a somber testament, is a dark chapter in Philippine history that must never be forgotten, lest we risk repeating the mistakes of the past. Power, when abused and wielded without conscience, can transform into the greatest horror of all, a force capable of inflicting unimaginable pain and suffering. Their names endure, etched in the nation's memory, as a constant call for unwavering vigilance, relentless accountability, and the active participation of every citizen in safeguarding democracy. The nation still mourns the loss of Mary Eileen and Alan and the promise they represented. March 18, 1996, Ozone Disco in Quezon City, a popular spot known for its vibrant atmosphere and late-night parties, became the scene of unimaginable horror. The night was particularly festive, as the club was packed with students celebrating graduation, eager to commemorate their academic achievements and embrace the freedom that lay ahead. The club, originally built for a capacity of just 40 people, was dangerously overcrowded, holding nearly 400 eager partygoers that night, a blatant disregard for safety regulations that would soon prove fatal. Just before midnight, as the music pulsed and the energy peaked, sparks from the DJ booth, likely due to faulty or overloaded equipment, ignited a deadly fire, quickly spreading through the club's flammable decorations and cheap construction materials. Panic erupted as the crowd rushed to escape, their joyous celebration instantly transforming into a desperate fight for survival amidst the growing inferno. But the main door, in a fatal design flaw, swung inward, trapping everyone inside, creating a bottleneck that prevented a swift evacuation and sealed the fate of many. Adding to the horror, the fire exit was blocked, likely by debris or locked shut, sealing their fate and eliminating any chance of escape through alternative routes. Flames and toxic smoke spread rapidly. The air became thick with poisonous fumes, further disorienting and incapacitating those trapped within the burning building. Chaos and terror filled the club, as screams echoed through the inferno, a symphony of fear and desperation as the fire consumed everything in its path. When firefighters finally arrived, battling thick smoke and intense heat, they found bodies piled against the door, fused together by the extreme heat, a grim testament to the desperate struggle for survival. In the end, 162 people died, most of them young students with their whole lives ahead of them, their dreams and aspirations extinguished in a single, devastating night, and 95 more were injured, many suffering severe burns and smoke inhalation, carrying the physical and emotional scars of the tragedy for the rest of their lives. It remains the deadliest nightclub fire in Philippine history, a dark chapter etched into the nation's collective memory, a constant reminder of the importance of safety and accountability. Investigations into the disaster revealed a shocking pattern of gross negligence, a series of preventable oversights and violations that contributed to the scale of the tragedy. The most glaring of these was overcrowding, with far too many people crammed into a space that was clearly inadequate for such a large gathering. Compounded by faulty wiring, an electrical system that was poorly maintained and unable to handle the demands of the club's equipment, and the absence of sprinklers, a critical fire suppression system that could have contained the blaze in its early stages, was a fatal omission. And most tragically, blocked exits. Emergency doors that were either obstructed or locked, preventing escape and turning the club into a death trap. The tragedy sparked national outrage and demands for accountability, with the public demanding justice for the victims and calling for stricter enforcement of safety regulations. Legal battles dragged on for years, as grieving families sought justice for their loved ones. But the wheels of justice turned slowly, and for many, the outcome felt incomplete and unsatisfying. The site of the Ozone Disco became infamous not only for the tragedy, but also for ghost stories, tales of unexplained phenomena and lingering spirits. Over the years, residents reported hearing faint music and chilling screams emanating from the ruins, whispers from the past that refused to be silenced. Paranormal enthusiasts and curious onlookers claimed to see shadows dancing where the dance floor once was, spectral figures reliving their last moments in the ill-fated club. The Ozone Disco fire became both a cautionary tale about the importance of safety and a modern ghost story, a chilling reminder of the lives lost and the consequences of negligence. Today a new building stands on the site, a symbol of progress and renewal, but the memory of that night endures, a haunting presence that cannot be erased. The tragedy serves as a stark lesson on the deadly cost of negligence and greed, a reminder that cutting corners on safety can have devastating consequences. The ghosts of Ozone Disco remind us that safety should never be sacrificed for profit or convenience, that human lives are more valuable than any amount of money. The fire's victims were more than just statistics. They were individuals with hopes, dreams, and aspirations, their lives tragically cut short in their prime. Their story is a call for vigilance and reform, a demand for stricter building codes, more thorough inspections, and a greater emphasis on fire safety education. The ozone tragedy is a haunting reminder that one night, one moment of carelessness, can change everything, leaving behind a legacy of pain and loss. The pain lingers in the hearts of the families and friends left behind, and so do the lessons learned from that horrific night, lessons that must never be forgotten. The stories of the Magwad siblings, Sarmenta and Gomez, and the Ozone Disco victims are etched into the nation's memory. They reveal the darkness that can hide behind trust, power, and negligence. These aren't just news stories. They're tragedies that changed lives forever. The true horror is the loss of innocence and the theft of futures. Let's remember the victims, demand accountability, and learn from these dark chapters. For more real horror stories, subscribe and stay vigilant. Thank you for watching, stay safe, and never forget.